Hi, I'm Hazel, and next up on our Women at Top series, we have Zalina Jamaluddin, who's the Director of Corporate Development at Asia School of Business, a new business school born out of collaboration between MIT Sloan School of Management and Bank Negara, Malaysia. Just a quick background about Zalina. Zalina's worked in various roles in ExxonMobil upstream company. She was a VP in Malaysia Petroleum Resources Corporation, otherwise also known as MPRC, a spin-off agency from Pemandu, Oil and Gas Energy, which is part of the Malaysian Economic Transformation Program. She's also enjoyed a stint at Talisman Energy as the Senior Commercial Advisor in charge of hardcore commercial negotiations for the production sharing contracts. She's a graduate from Cornell University, New York, as a chemical engineer. She's also a yoga practitioner. I've also added she's a super duper runner and also a friendly teacher to her 3 children. Zalina, thank you so much for coming aboard.
Thank you, Hazel, for inviting me.
Well, that's
fun.
So just a quick introduction, right? There was a time where I was doing a speaking engagement about women empowerment, and Zalina came across as the most interesting person that I've ever met in the history of doing speaking engagements, because she had a very, very strong perception about what women empowerment means and what it shouldn't be used for. But before we get into that, let's talk about milestones. Tell us, a couple of some major professional and personal milestones that you've enjoyed in your life so far.
Oh, thank you, Hazel.
Yeah.
So just a quick introduction. I mean, you've kind of covered that in the introduction, like a long introduction.
Yeah, it was a bit long. Yeah.
So I'm an engineer by background,
Yeah.
and in terms of the milestone, being an engineer in ExxonMobil for 10 years is a long time. So
sure.
milestone-wise, every different role has a milestone. But what really changed me was the transition between ExxonMobil MNC to the government role. So that was a big transition in terms of milestone for me. So it was from, these are the business imperatives, these are what we're going to do, how you make it profitable, to how are we going to impact the nation. So that has actually given me a different lens. But also in terms of the different milestones also, in the next role was a commercial advisor. So people would be looking at me and say, so what are your thoughts around this $100 million deal or $250 million deal? And
that's some big money, right?
Yes, and what it has taught me is how do I then integrate all the learnings from all these different experiences and that I had, and then actually use the emotional intelligence to actually secure the deal. So people don't talk about it that much, but actually that's how you get the deal, right? So
that's really interesting, because you're a mom of 3, and I know there are certain things that some people are not happy talking about, but we're talking about your whole life, right? And I'm asking you about milestones, and the most challenging milestone was moving from corporate to government.
Yes.
We haven't even started talking about how it is like to have 3 children and to be working yet. So, when we were at that women empowerment of sorts conference, or rather small, short speaking engagement, you did have some beliefs that were quite strong. What does women empowerment mean to you? What annoys you maybe about how it's being used today? And if you had a magic wand, what would it look like in the future?
I mean, I think I love this topic because, I'm a woman myself, and what it means to me is that women empowerment is embracing the differences. So rather than be speaking about women empowerment, I like to celebrate individual values, individual strength. So what it means to me about what is women empowerment is to celebrate the differences, to recognize, yes, we're different in different ways, but how then we actually embrace that and celebrate the success, and how do you then put it in the most efficient and optimal way for the contribution of society. But what it does not mean to me.
What annoys you the most about how people are using these terminologies?
So what annoys me is people use it as a tool to lobby or to say, because of this privilege, I because I'm a woman, so I shall be entitled to certain privileges, or more like, oh, okay, there's some quarters that make it sound like, okay, because women have been oppressed, and men are bad. It sounds like, okay, because of that, men had oppressed us for so long, so we need to rally, and so it's not productive, I feel, because it excludes
It sounds
men.
quite non-progressive, actually.
It's not.
Non-progressive.
Counterproductive.
Yeah.
So I'm an action-oriented person.
Yeah.
I believe in outcome.
She's very action-oriented person. Very action-oriented person.
So
yeah.
if you think about it,
Yeah.
are you going to achieve that by being a complainer? No. Right?
No,
I think
definitely not.
So that's one thing that annoys
You're not
me.
going to achieve it by being a complainer. You're not going to achieve it by making known that there's a little bit of a disadvantage that you might have for some traditional roles that are probably imposed on you. But nonetheless, if you look at research, women aren't making it to the top, and there are less women working in general working, even though in terms of being educated, you've got 50% of boys and girls making it up to a degree level. I understand this is the reality of the world and understand your perspective. If you had a magic wand, understanding both, what would it look like in terms of an action-oriented, progressive movement for women going forward? What would it look like for you?
So I like this question because I think that gives a different conversation, brings a different conversation so that we can get into this problem-solving mode rather than, I'm a woman.
Yeah, history, what happened in 1950.
And I think so we're all grateful that we're in this era where there's so many, our ancestors have actually
led the way already.
Right?
We're here now.
We're here now.
Yeah.
Right.
I know it still sounds sometimes like it's 1950s,
Is it?
but we're here now.
We've achieved quite a lot of progress, right? So if I were to do that, so rather than seeing it as, okay, labeling it, this is women movement, why don't we look at it as individual celebration of different strengths? Because, we're all not the same, we're all unique.
We're not.
Right? So how do you identify the special strength, the value that this person can contribute, or maybe rather than say, okay, women or not, and then we help people and facilitate to achieve the goal, the greater goal. I know it sounds very naive but I'm a true believer in, look, we need to solve it.
What would that
from
look
a
like
pattern.
in a corporation? Say, for example, if a corporation would want to have more women in the workplace, or returning back, or even making it to the top, what would it look like rather than using the word women empowerment or women movement or specific women acceleration program? What would it look like?
So, we talk about diversity, DNI, right? Diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
I like that word better. And of course, in terms of diversity, it's a very broad statement. So is it just women? No. Is it, you can define it however way.
Yeah.
But basically going back to celebrating individuals' uniqueness and the needs.
Yeah.
The needs.
And the needs, yeah.
Right.
I like this part more than any other part. So if we're looking at women, and you're talking specifically not about women, but about general needs. So categorizing needs rather than categorizing based on gender.
Yes.
So what are we categorizing here in terms of needs?
So everybody has different needs at different phase of life.
Sure.
Right? For example, we talked about earlier about, okay, if you're a woman, you might get into childbearing phase.
Yeah.
Okay, then you have different needs.
Correct.
You need to flexible work program. I'll talk a bit more, share my own experience later. And what about maybe fathers who want to take time off?
There you go.
Or taking care of elderly parents, or a single who needs to take care of parents.
Absolutely.
Or who want to take study leave. Whichever way you I think we as a society, we need to think about, and we need to be a bit more strategic and visionary about what's required in the future.
Agree.
And then we all talk about the industry 4.0, that actually it's going to be so much different than what it is right now.
Right. And I also think that, we can have more women in the corporation or in a company and more women at the top if we have paternity leave, for example. Yes. I think that would be the biggest deal sealer to have more women.
Yes.
Paternity leave. So we're not even talking about women anymore. We're talking about empowering men, or giving men also that privilege to be at home.
Right.
So I really enjoy this discussion more, because when we talk about women empowerment, it's still very abstract, and it definitely is a little bit more one-sided.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that, you're talking about it as needs and categorizing it based on what really is needed in order for any individual to succeed.
Yes.
Because all of us are going through something or the other,
Yep.
especially working mothers most likely.
Yeah.
But now, so let's talk a little bit about you being in a male-dominated space. So you've worked, in negotiating contracts that are worth millions. And I'm assuming you would probably be one of the very few women in that setting. What is it like for you to be in a male-dominated space? Does that affect you in any way at all? And what did you do to get to where you got to?
So I know you know my reaction, my strong reaction when he asked that question, and that's how we started this.
So the question I asked in the conference that evoked this really crazy reaction was, would your life be any different if you were opposite gender? And Zalina was like, no way. So that was interesting because the rest of the crowd was, yes, it was so different. For her, it was not. So tell us, what is it like for a woman to be a male?
To share a bit of that story is that, so I never felt it. I never thought about it because in Exxon, in Cornell, doing chemical engineering, there was like 50% engineers, female engineers.
Right.
And when people raved about it, and like, oh yeah, we should have all this. I never thought about it that way because I always say that, okay, look, you as an individual, you contribute values. Yeah. This is your competency, your ability. Then that's it. So, until I left the oil and gas industry, and the first question that actually not the first question, a lot of questions, but most I would plot it on the graph and say, people actually thought, oh, are you the secretary of the so-and-so of my boss? And I said, no, I'm the vice president or I'm the manager. And they would look at me with this weird, oh, but you don't look like an engineer. I said, so what is an engineer supposed to look like?
Not like you, Zalina.
And I say that, look, okay, and then I had to play my card. I had to play my card and I say, yeah, by the way, I have worked so-and-so in Exxon for, I've done gas planning. To talk about, managing the Peninsula Gas Malaysia.
Right.
I mean, I talk about, you ask me how to find oil, I know how to find oil.
Zalina drills.
I help the team to find oil. I'm a reservoir engineer. I've climbed up tanks in Terengganu Oil Terminal when I was pregnant, by the way. I got to know after that. So, but anyway, having said that, I never felt it until I got out. Yeah. So it's funny how people talk about you would not realize it until you get out of certain situations. Right. So a lot of the graceful response that I would give is, thank you very much. I'm not so-and-so secretary, or I'm not a HR professional. No offense to HR professional, but they make all these assumptions immediately.
You must be a secretary or you be in HR,
Yes. Yeah. And I said, no, I'm not. So, and then they will start asking all my backgrounds, and they will hear all my credentials, and they will smile politely and say, oh. And then they become friends after that, which is fine. Yeah. So, and I get the same reaction after I was going to go to Talisman as a commercial advisor, and then they said, oh, so you're going there as a lawyer or are you going there as a HR practitioner? I said, no, I'm going to be there as a commercial person. Oh, okay, so but I'm used to that. Now I understand, but I also have a standard answer.
Standard operator. So you're good. I mean, I think you can at least maintain some calm. I can't really maintain that calm sometimes when that happens. But yes, I try. So it's good that you have a standard operating question. I like. So basically, what you're trying to say is that it didn't make a difference to you, but obviously, it made a difference, and it made. There was a perceptional bias,
of course,
of sorts, but that didn't affect you, and that didn't make any difference for you. Yeah. Where does this come from? Where does this strong clarity of non-difference come from?
I think if you look at just in history, all the strong women, mostly I would say they have their mothers as their role model. I feel. I don't have data to back that up, but I sense that
we don't always need data.
I'm an engineer. I've got data. So basically, I think I grew up. My mother is a very entrepreneurial. She's not really from a traditional Malay family, so to speak. Right? I'm generalizing a bit.
Yeah, that's all right.
And when I grew up, nobody had this expectation. Oh, you cannot do this because you're a girl. So I said I always knew. I think it kind of took for granted, but I think the surrounding and the upbringing was like, I always knew that, look, I can do whatever I want to do if I want to go whatever.
Yeah.
So
there's no difference between what a guy can do and what I can do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think also it helps in the upbringing, also the school environment.
Sure.
I went to a girls' boarding school, to Fatima, and I noticed that a lot of the girls from the boarding school, they became strong.
Right.
Like, you know, it's not so much of the women empowerment or whatever, but it's just like, I don't have to deal with boys.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you the safe space to experiment, to be the leader. You don't have to,
wait for a guy to come in.
I don't have to wait.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I just do it. Yeah.
It needs to be done. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So that's one of I feel.
Have there been times where you've outperformed in negotiations compared to a male counterpart?
I think.
Look on her face is like.
I know. I'm not going to answer that.
The number of times, man.
So I think in terms of empathy.
Yeah.
I think women win in this.
Right? You think?
Yes.
I don't know. I can't confirm. Yeah.
At the expense of probably a danger of stereotyping. Maybe not. Okay. Maybe let's not go there. But as an individual, I feel like that is one of the
key strengths that you have.
That I have. Yeah. Right? Understanding the big picture, having the empathy of the other side, and what is the ultimate goal that we all want to achieve. And surprisingly, a lot of people ask me, how did you negotiate with so-and-so? How did you actually get to do these things? And I said, because it's not just for my benefit. I know this is for the bigger benefit.
Right. So bringing in big time money is not a gender based a thing. It's obviously something where you have to find the strengths of somebody who can or who can't do it.
Yeah.
And I guess there are a lot of missed opportunities because typically men may find their spaces into that position compared to women.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these, especially when it comes to negotiations, commercial negotiations, is very analytical. Okay. One thing that I probably haven't shared with you, I love math. Like, I do love math. I did better than my husband. He's watching. I did better than my husband. I got perfect scores. And so that's probably one of the things that kind of separated me very early in the start. Like, I love math. I'm very analytical. Yeah. But at the same time, I know that being analytical, when you complement it with the people's skill, it's so much better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it takes you to the top straight away.
Yes.
Yeah. So two of the super, we have superfoods. These are super competencies that get you to the top. So let's get personal. Tell us a time where, the traditional roles and expectations required of a female mother, maybe even, could have come in the way of your aspirations. Let's get really personal.
Sure.
Tell us a time where it could have been possible that Zalina would not be corporate director of sorts at Asian School of Business. Yeah.
I bet you, if you ask any mother, they probably will have the same question, the same answer. It is when they just delivered their baby, right? And I have that 3 times a different time in my life, right?
3 babies as well.
So yes, at that point, like any other, you could be such an empowered person, and then the maternal hormone kicks in, like literally a biological hormone kicks in, and I felt that. I felt like, oh my God, I need to be with my baby. I cannot, all this guilt.
Yeah.
My firstborn, I knew that I was young to quit, so I knew that. The second one, I had a 50-50. But even then, I actually managed to work out with my female boss. I said that I'm going to take, I think it was 6 months off or 3 months off. Yeah. But as I progressed through the career, and then you kind of felt like, okay, I'm done okay, I'm done okay. But, my last one, I really thought I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Because I think, I don't know about other women. For me, I used to have this mindset of all or nothing. Yeah. And that's what I really like the Sheryl Sandberg's excerpt on, we should not opt out early without even getting there. We talk about that as well.
That is my definite favorite. Yeah. Like, don't leave before you get it.
Before you get it, right? Because that was the point. I had this all or nothing. That means that I need to quit because I've got a baby.
Yeah.
And so I did
And
not.
now I've got 3, so I may as well just, yeah.
So it felt real.
Right.
But what I realized after that, I think also you need support system, and the logic kicks in when also my husband kind of did his, tough love conversations. Are you sure you want to quit? And this is where you're such an accomplished woman, and I think without support system, without all these people who actually look in your eyes and say, do you really want to quit? So after that, I accepted the fact, and I say, okay, so then let's find alternatives. How do we make it work?
I think it's so special when somebody looks in your eye and says, why not?
Yes.
Rather than, you know what, I think you should just stay back.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you mentioned as well that there were many people who told you, used religion or used guilt to come and tell you things like, say, for example, you should stay at home with your kids.
Yes.
You need more time to bond with them.
I mean,
using religious...
so that's what I think at that point, that's what, maybe I'm a rebel. I think the more people...
That's all you needed. You needed 10 people to tell you no, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. That's just my predisposition and my nature.
Yeah.
And when I had heard enough, especially from really close family members, and said that, but I know for sure my mom is always like, go for it. You don't have to stay home. Like, she could not imagine. She worked, right? She was a working mom. She never quit. So to her, she couldn't understand why I would want to quit.
Yeah.
So when I had all these other expectation on me and say, oh, you should be a lecturer because then you can spend more time with your...
I have heard that at least 10 times in the history of my life, and I don't even have kids. There's some affinity that people have with women and being a lecturer.
And there's nothing wrong with it if you like it.
There's nothing wrong, yeah.
But I know I'll be a bad lecturer.
The poor student.
So let's accept that. Move on.
Yeah.
So that was...
So a lot of support, and I guess when the negative noises are higher, or the noises that say, I don't think it's going to be possible, gets drowned down by just 1 or 2 really, really strong voices that says, you can. And I'm going to be there for you.
Yes.
And it can be done. It helps you to take 1 step, and then the next step, and then before you know it, you're here with 3 kids.
And I have no regrets.
So what do you think about moms who opt out of this whole ability to go and do the home thing and the career thing at both like super accelerated rates?
And it's a personal decision. So I have respect for people who decided and feel that that's my priority in life. So what's not acceptable to me, is to make compromises. That means that without making conscious decision, without thinking through and imagining what your life is going to be in the next 40 years, is that going to be my priority? That is not acceptable. But if you, having looked through all these, your aspiration, your purpose, and you said, I'm going to be...
This is it. This is what I was born to do. Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. And the moment you decided that you're going to be a stay-home mom, be the best. The best.
Yeah, the very best. Yeah.
The very best. Yeah. And, create legacy through your children.
Sure.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I feel so happy for people who opt out to do that. And, I have so much respect because I don't think I can stay.
Yeah.
So
I like something that we talked about earlier as well, that there is this notion of sacrifice, that we have to sacrifice or we have to compromise. And I've heard many mothers, I don't know whether I've heard enough of fathers saying this. I have no clue whether, I've unconsciously had this bias that only women say it. But I've heard a lot of mothers specifically say, you know how much I've sacrificed? They give you that look in your eyes and they say, you know how much I've compromised to get you to where you are. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. Coincidentally, I watched this TEDx video last night about why you will fail to achieve great career. And at the middle of that video talks about, well, you know why you're gonna fail? Because you're afraid. And what you're gonna do, you're gonna blame your children. And I knew that. So I knew that long back, that I will be fair to my children and say that this is my aspiration, so you guys are not the reason.
Yeah.
So it was a conscious decision for me to say that, look, I know that I'm gonna tell my kids, go for it. when they grow up and say, because I did.
Yeah.
So rather than because I sacrificed, so that you should
Yeah,
sacrifice.
no, I think this
sad,
should be
it's
like
a sad case. So let's not.
It is like a bit of a pity party, right?
I mean, yeah, life is short. So
No, but I do know that there are a lot of parents
Yes.
who sacrificed a lot, but
it's priority.
yeah.
How do you prioritize? So it's fine.
Yeah,
Whichever way.
it would be so much nicer if we said I chose out of all the decisions that I had, this was my choice, and I did it happily. That would be really nice. So my final most important question to you is that what is the most important decision that you've made as a woman that has helped you to reach great heights?
Actually, I'm not too sure the great heights statement, but
Wow.
yeah. So one thing that I realized that I realized this not that long ago. I mean, I'm a self-development junkie, whatever you call it.
Cheers.
But look, I see the benefit. Why not? Right? I mean, I love reading books about getting better and whatnot. So one of the things that I felt very strongly about that I would love to impart with a lot of the women going in this journey is give yourself permission. Like I give myself permission to do whatever I think will be best for me, and do not seek validation, because I realized, so it was through all these reflections and you kind of saw the pattern. I mean, I saw the pattern. I was like, why? So I felt like a lot of times in my career, I had to seek a lot of validation, and I had to ask for permission.
Yeah.
You know what? You don't need to ask for permission. The only permission you do is to yourself.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you
I
need.
know. I mean, just a simple example with that, right? Like if I cook something, I would ask my husband like 3 times, how did it turn out?
It's
like,
fine.
He cooked something, he'd be like, I cooked. So I hear what you're saying, It's very simple, it's very basic. There's always this need to check in with others as to how you're doing. Feedback is good, but you don't need others for validation about who you are.
Yeah.
And I love what you say. You don't need to ask anybody for permission.
Yeah.
You probably need to get their support. You probably need to get buy-in, but you don't need permission.
Yeah. So it was a big aha moment for me. And I got that not when I was 20, not when I was, 30 plus, whatever, when I got that. But it was a big aha moment, because I looked back and I said, actually, I have been asking for validation every single time. And here, I had this very good coffee with my coach, and she was like, she looked at me in the eyes and said, Zalina, you are enough. And that was like, but you don't realize that, right? You kind of go through the life and you said, I know, but until you look back. So that was the biggest moment for me, because you know why? What it takes to get to the top, not just women, what it takes to be that is you realize what are your strengths, you realize what I want to do and what I want to serve, but at the same time you have the courage. So if you wait for permission, you wouldn't have the courage to go.
No.
Right, because I'll be waiting and say, nobody gives me this position.
Yeah.
No, you ask for it.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
And with that, we've got Zalina, who is just a breath of fresh air for me in this space of women empowerment and in general, what it takes to build legacy with regards to your career and your family life.
Thank
and
you.
Still be super radiant and happy. I love it. Thank you so much, Zalina, for being with me today. And
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been really good having the conversation, and going forward, hopefully we get to work a lot more with you and get more women and men to believe in focusing on needs rather than on gender and eventually race and so on and so forth. Again, with me is Zalina. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.